Alright, back to Emerson. Where we left off in the last video was with this great line from Emerson saying, we currently, in his time, which ironically is still very much today, which in itself denotes not too much significant growth in this respect, which is very critical. He says, we shun the rugged battle of fate where strength is born. And this next paragraph goes into more detail about that with a very good example. So let's get into that, keeping in mind that we shun the rugged battle of fate where strength is born. Continuing on. If our young men miscarry in their first enterprises, they lose all heart. If the young merchant fails, men say he's ruined. If the finest genius studies at one of our colleges and is not installed in an office within 1 year afterwards in the cities or suburbs of Boston or New York, it seems to his friends and to himself that he is right in being disheartened and in complaining the rest of his life. A sturdy lad from New Hampshire or Vermont, who in turn tries all the professions, who teams it, farms it, peddles, keeps a school, preaches, edits a newspaper, goes to Congress, buys a township, and so forth, in successive years, and always, like a cat, falls on his feet, is worth 100 of these city dolls, he calls them. He walks abreast with his days and feels no shame in not studying a profession, for he does not postpone his life but lives already. He has not one chance but 100 chances. Let a Stoic open the resources of man and tell men they are not leaning, new powers shall appear. I'm sorry, I think I skipped a line. Let me read that again. Let a Stoic open the resources of man and tell men they are not leaning willows, but can and must detach themselves, that with the exercise of self-trust, new powers shall appear. I'll read that again. With the exercise of self-trust, new powers shall appear. That a man is the Word made flesh, born to shed healing to the nations. Born to shed healing to the nations. That he should be ashamed of our compassion, and that the moment he acts from himself, tossing the laws, the books, idolatries, and customs out of the window, we pity him no more, but thank and revere him. And that teacher shall restore the life of man to splendor and make his name dear to all history. This is a magnificent paragraph. Right after he follows that line, we shun the ragged battle of fate where strength is born. Our strength comes from trying things. Try and try again. Try and try again. Do and do again. Do and do again. Trying is just the initiative step. It's getting things in motion. But as you do that, you're already you're living your life. You're not postponing your living. In many ways, our societal systems, take education for example, what he mentions here. You go to the top school, you're postponing your life experience. I've worked in staffing and I've seen just that. People that have gotten very high degrees, very high prestigious schools, they've got their degree, but they haven't got a lick of real world experience. And what does the employer need? They need people that can do the job, not in theory, but in practice, using your hands to till the ground, the plot that is before you. But have you mastered self? Have you mastered what your purpose is? Do you know how to work on your dreams? Or have you postponed your life taking courses towards a presumed career only to find that when you graduate maybe there's no jobs, or maybe you get one and you don't like what you're doing? They say we've climbed that ladder of success only to find that the ladder's up against the wrong wall. I've done it. I've done it myself. 8 years in a company that I loved, and then I saw that maybe it could be better, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get to the top so that I can change it as a CEO. But then I saw that it was changing me, because that's how it works. When you fall into a system, when you conform to it, you have two choices. You can either become a part of it and... No, actually, there's only that one choice in conformity, that's what I mean, but the other choice is to step out, to say no, to do what he's saying. And then that's where you find you've got more chances to do all kinds of things, to figure out what your unique plot is to tell. And what's more, when you exercise self-trust, taking that leap to step back from conforming, even if all the days before you had your ladder up against this wrong wall and you want to say, no, I'm going to be a painter, I'm going to be an inventor, I'm going to be a scientist, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to be an actress. Try not to do those in today's society. You got to reinvent those avenues first, because right now they're totally diminishing of our brilliance as human beings, and they're making us mindless robots. But that's neither here nor there. What he says is, by practicing self-trust, new powers shall appear. I guarantee, and this is true. We'll talk about that more later. Well, let's continue. It is easy to see that a greater self-reliance must work a revolution in all the offices and relations of men, in their religion, in their education, in their pursuits, their modes of living, their association, in their property, in their speculative views. Number 1. In what prayers do men allow themselves? That which they call a holy office is not so much as brave and manly. Prayer looks abroad and asks for some foreign addition to come through, some foreign virtue, and loses itself in endless mazes of natural and supernatural and mediatorial and miraculous. Prayer and the contemplation... I keep doing that. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Let's go back. Prayer that craves a particular commodity, anything less than all good, is vicious. I think I skipped another line. I'm gonna read this whole thing over again so we can get it in full scope, and then I think you'll get a better idea of what he's saying here. My apologies again. This part is numbered, so this is number 1. In what prayers do men allow themselves? And it's finished with an exclamation point. That which they call a holy office is not so much as brave and manly. Prayer looks abroad and asks for some foreign addition to come through some foreign virtue, and loses itself in endless mazes of natural and supernatural and mediatorial and miraculous. Prayer that craves a particular commodity, anything less than all good, is vicious. Prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. It is the soliloquy of a beholding and jubilant soul. It is the Spirit of God pronouncing his works good. But prayer as a means to effect a private end is meanness and theft. Again, Emerson says, prayer as a means to effect a private end is a meanness and theft. It supposes dualism and not unity in nature and consciousness. As soon as the man is at one with God, he will not beg. As soon as the man is one with God, he will not beg. Like he says, through nonconformance, new powers shall appear. We are one with the Creator. That which he is capable of has come manifest in humanity so that we can express ourselves, so that he may express himself, so that source may express itself, that infinite intelligence may express itself in the fragments and fractals of human beings experiencing this life experience. He will then see prayer in all action. The prayer of the farmer kneeling in his field to weed it, the prayer of the rower kneeling with the stroke of his oar, are true prayers heard throughout nature. though for cheap ends. Caratach in Fletcher's Bonduca, when admonished to inquire the mind of the good Audate, A-U-D-A-T-E, Audate, replies, his hidden meaning lies in our endeavors. Our valors are our best gods. Another sort of false prayers are our regrets. Discontent is the want of self-reliance. It is infirmity of will. Regret calamities if you can thereby help the sufferer. If not, attend your own work, and already the evil begins to be repaired. Our sympathy is just as base. We come to them who weep foolishly and sit down and cry for company, instead of imparting to them truth and health in rough electric shocks, putting them once more in communication with their own reason. The secret of fortune is joy in our hands. Welcome evermore to gods and men is the self-helping man. For him all doors are flung wide, him all tongues greet, all honors crown, all eyes follow with the desire. Our love goes out to him and embraces him because he did not need it. We solicitously and apologetically caress and celebrate him because he held on his way and scorned our disapprobation. The gods love him because men hated him. In quotes, to the preserving mortal, said Zoroaster, the blessed immortals are swift. As men's prayers are a disease of the will, so are their creeds a disease of the intellect. They say with those foolish Israelites, let not God speak to us, lest we die. Speak thou, speak any man with us, and we will obey. Everywhere I am hindered of meeting God in my brother, because he has shut his own temple doors and recites fables merely of his brother's or his brother's brother's God. This is important. This is crucial and critical. I think that we need to become unbound. I was looking over some of the previous videos and I had this red shirt with these ropes on it. And I was thinking, what the heck does that shirt mean? What does it say? I'm bound. I was bound. That's the design. That was a Harajuku Girls clothing line by Gwen Stefani. Gwen Stefani, very popular pop singer. What's her message? What's her clothing line's message? I was bound and roped down. My favorite symbol in life is an anchor. I love the anchor. And so it reminded me of the sailor kind of motif, but what it really said was, you're roped, you're captive. I don't want to be bound anymore. So we have to think of all the systems, all the things, all of the ways that we bind ourselves into small thinking or subliminal messages, because we are constant receivers. If you figure out how the mind works, and there's other books on Corey Anderson's channel that I told you about earlier. He reads Christian D. Larson, How the Mind Works. Also Charles F. Hannell, who talks very extensively about the psyche and the consciousness from a very scientific point of view, very, very academic, very high level, and very easy to understand at the same time when he breaks it down in a way that you've never heard before. We're reading what no one else is reading, Corey says, doing what no one else is doing, becoming who no one else is becoming. That's the purpose of us who stand here and read and share this information with you in a way that you can understand authentic inspiration, modern interpretation. So anyways, getting back to how our minds are absorbing things that we might not be cognizant of, the way we wear our clothes, there's ties that are binding us. Likewise, what Emerson's saying here is, unfortunately, with those in religious beliefs, they speak of God sometimes in a way that is so outreaching, so far away. Oh no, I can't talk to God. He's God. I can talk to my brother's brother, or tell a story about someone who did something great far off, but to know God, to be one with God, to be God-like, is too much. It's an insult to his greatness. The Bible itself says that the temple of God and God is within. Emerson says here, everywhere I am hindered of meeting God in my brother, because he has shut his own temple doors and recites fables merely of his brother's or his brother's brother's God. Come closer to God by knowing godliness within yourself. It's not scary. It doesn't even have to be full of dogma. Just learn right principles. Truth, and live according to truth. You will be living as God wishes you to live, as the higher power wishes you to live. If you don't believe, it's still going to give you new powers. New powers will come to you by living rightly, by living according to truth. You don't want to ask where those powers are coming from, then just test it out and see what powers you get, how your life can change, how your experience as a human being can change by you absolving your obedience to systems that do not serve you, but still acting in accordance with a higher way. Let me stop expounding on that and continue with the text. Every new mind is a new classification. If it prove a mind of uncommon activity and power, a Locke, a Lavoisier, a Houghton, a Bentham, a Fourier, it imposes its classification on other men, and lo, a new system. In proportion to the depth of the thought, and so to the number of the objects it touches and brings within reach of the pupil, is his complacency. But chiefly is this apparent in creeds and churches, which are also classifications of some powerful mind acting on the elemental thought of duty and man's relations to the highest, such as Calvinism, Quakerism, Swedenborgism. The pupil takes the same delight in subordinating everything to the new terminology as a girl who has just learned botany in seeing a new earth and new seasons thereby. It will happen for a time that the pupil will find his intellectual power has grown by the study of his master's mind. But in all unbalanced minds, the classification is idolized, passes for the end, and not for a speedily exhaustible means, so that the walls of the system blend to their eye in the remote horizon with the walls of the universe. The luminaries of heaven seem to them hung on the ark their master built. The luminaries of heaven seem to them hung on the ark their master built. They cannot imagine how you aliens have any right to see, how you can see. It must be somehow that you stole the light from us. They do not yet perceive that light, unsystematic, indomitable, will break into any cabin, even into theirs. Let them chirp a while and call it their own. If they are honest and do well, presently their neat new pinfold will be too straight and low, will crack, will lean, will rot and vanish, and the immortal light, all young and joyful, million-orbed, million-colored, will beam over the universe as on the first morning. The power is within each and every one of us, no matter where we live, no matter what socioeconomic class, no matter what heritage or ancestry. We are all one. We all have this power within us. We are all made of the same systems, our bodies, our sympathetic nervous system, the parts of your body that work without you having to think about it. You blink and breathe and pump blood to all parts of your body, the same as every other walking, living, breathing person on this planet. Yet you think that because of your dogma or tradition or whatever your practice is, that you are more saved, that light is more within you or special to you. But you will see that if each and every one of those living, breathing men and creatures acted in this certain way to each and every single one of them, regardless of dogma, they would be blessed with the same new powers, with the same elevated state of being, with the same conscious connection to the One, to the God, and the God's powers will still come to each and every one of us. That means that it is not exclusive to anyone, and that we shall not judge or look upon any other man or sect or group of men and say that they do not have this light. This light is within all of us, and it is for all of us. However, all have not recognized and acted upon it, so some are shedding darkness. And what did Emerson say before? We are here to advance on chaos and the dark. Each and every one of us, that's the reason why we're here. But let's continue. Number 2, it is for want of self-culture that the superstition of traveling, whose idols are Italy, England, Egypt, retains its fascination for all educated Americans. They who made England, Italy, or Greece venerable in the imagination did so by sticking fast where they were, like an axis of the earth. In manly hours we feel that duty is our place. The soul is no traveler. The wise man stays at home. And when his necessities, his duties, on any occasion call him from his house or into foreign lands, he is at home still, and shall make men sensible by the expression of his countenance that he goes, the missionary of wisdom and virtue, and visits cities and men like a sovereign and not like an interloper or a valet. Whew! He's going to go on and express that a little more. I love this concept. At first I was like, hey, what? But he explains. I have no churlish objection to the circumnavigation of the globe for the purpose of art, of study, and benevolence, so that the man is first domesticated, or does not go abroad with the hope of finding somewhat greater than he knows. He who travels to be amused, or to get somewhat which he does not carry, travels away from himself, and grows old even in youth among old things. In Thebes, in Palmyra, his will and mind have become old and dilapidated as they. He carries ruins to ruins. He explains further. Traveling is a fool's paradise. What? Traveling is a fool's paradise, Emerson says. Our first journeys discover to us the indifference of places. At home, I dream that at Naples, at Rome, I can be intoxicated with beauty and lose my sadness. I pack my trunk, embrace my friends, embark on the sea, and at last wake up in Naples. And there beside me is the stern fact, the sad self, unrelenting, identical, that I fled from. I seek the Vatican and the palaces. I affect to be intoxicated with sights and suggestions, but I am not intoxicated. My giant goes with me wherever I go. He goes on this thought, but this is very interesting. If you're traveling or going somewhere or being with someone in a relationship to find yourself or to feel invigorated, and you don't work on you first, if you don't live by universal truths, then you will bring whatever it is you're running from or feeling that you're lacking right along with you. My giant goes with me wherever I go. If you travel to the most beautiful lands because you're sad and you're missing something, sad and missing something is packed up with you in your suitcases. He says traveling is a fool's paradise. Let's continue. Number 3. But the rage of traveling is a symptom of a deeper unsoundness affecting the whole intellectual action. The intellect is vagabond, and our system of education fosters restlessness. Our minds travel when our bodies are forced to stay at home. We imitate, and what is imitation but the traveling of the mind? That's important. Our houses are built with a foreign taste. Our shelves are garnished with foreign ornaments. Our opinions, our tastes, our faculties lean and follow the past and ornaments. Oh no, sorry, I went back. My phone is going off because this is already a certain length of time. But let me finish this passage right here. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. I'm going to shut that off. Alrighty. I hope that's not too disruptive. This whole passage, number 3. But the rage of traveling is a symptom of a deeper unsoundness affecting the whole intellectual action. The intellect is vagabond, and our system of education fosters restlessness. Our minds travel when our bodies are forced to stay at home. We imitate, and what is imitation but the traveling of the mind? Our houses are built with foreign taste. Our shelves are garnished with foreign ornaments. Our opinions, our tastes, our faculties lean and follow the past and the distant. The soul created the arts wherever they have flourished. It was in his own mind that the artist sought his model. It was an application of his own thought to the thing to be done and the conditions to be observed. And why need we copy the Doric or the Gothic model? Beauty, convenience, grandeur of thought, and quaint expression are as near to us as to any, and if the American artist will study with hope and love the precise thing to be done by him, considering the climate, the soil, the length of the day, the wants of the people, the habit and form of the government, he will create a house in which all these will find themselves fitted, and taste and sentiment will be satisfied also. Insist on yourself. Never imitate, he says. Your own gift you can present every moment with the cumulative force of a whole life's cultivation, but of the adopted talent of another you have only an extemporaneous half possession. That which each can do best, none but his Maker can teach him. No man yet knows what it is, nor can, till that person has exhibited it. Where is the master who could have taught Shakespeare? Where is the master who could have instructed Franklin, or Washington, or Bacon, or Newton? Every great man is a unique. The Scipianism of Scipio is precisely that part he could not borrow. Shakespeare will never be made by the study of Shakespeare. Do that which is assigned to you, and you cannot hope too much or dare too much. There is at this moment for you an utterance brave and grand as that of the colossal chisel of Phidias, or trowel of the Egyptians, or the pen of Moses or Dante, but different from all these. Not possibly will the soul, all rich, all eloquent, with thousand-cloven tongue, deign to repeat itself. But if you can hear what these patriarchs say, surely you can reply to them in the same pitch of voice. For the ear and the tongue are two organs of one nature. We are all one. Every thought that's been thought is shared in this space. Many, many, many a great before have said this. As Emerson said, they were not great, they were just living in a certain way. As actually Wallace D. Wattles would say, living in a certain way. Emerson says they're self-reliant, so they were given powers. Abide in the simple and noble regions of thy life, obey thy heart, and thou shalt reproduce the foreworld again. I'm going to stop right there, and next we'll pick up with number 4. Thanks.